Hi everybody, this is Dino Chris from Prehistoric Facts. This is a special episode. We got two animals to talk about. One is a marine reptile and the other one is a dinosaur. And so let's start with the marine reptile that we'll be talking about today, and that is Tylosaurus. And Tylosaurus in Greek or Latin means knob lizard. Knob lizard. Basically like a doorknob, basically. Habitat where it lived is in the shallow seas of North America. Late Cretaceous, 85 to, I'd say, pretty close to 75 million years ago. Size, length is 35 feet long. I've heard specimens are actually 40 feet and 7 tons. And basically, it's a carnivorous marine reptile. Probably had a diet of fish, turtles, and some other marine reptiles. And the characteristics of Tylosaurus, and really the family it belongs to, is mosasaurs. And so mosasaurs are actually kind of like giant marine monitor lizards. And that's what they're closely related to, is monitor lizards, kind of like the Komodo dragon, the Parenti, those types of monitor lizards. And really, it's just and the reasons why is because it almost looks like a monitor lizard. It's because it's got that slender head and kind of that slender body as well. And but they don't have legs like monitor lizards. They just have flippers. And of course, being a marine reptile, you have to adjust to living in a marine environment, and that's why they adapted their hearing, they adapted their smell, to actually thrive in a marine environment. And so with Tylosaurus, like all other mosasaurs, probably was very fast in terms of its body, in terms of like how it actually swam, because it had that side-to-side motion like most reptiles and fish. And so with that paddle-like tail, that compressed tail, it would actually be very good to actually give it some speed. Now the tail would actually be part of the speed. The other part of the speed would actually be its back flippers. The back flippers would actually be very good to actually produce speed. All it needed to do was actually just make a good thrust, and then pretty much it actually can give it more speed. Now it's still unknown how fast mosasaurs could actually go in the water in terms of their speed and swimming. There are some estimates that say they could be like 20 to 30 miles per hour. I've heard one that was actually up to 50 miles per hour, but I highly doubt that, because you see, if you have an animal that big, the only way you need to actually get it to 50 miles per hour in terms of swimming is that you need to put a lot of muscle in your tail in order to actually do this, and that's not entirely possible for this type of mosasaur. Now, this mosasaur would actually be the top predator in its environment, so it would actually be the most dangerous type of marine reptile in the ocean during its time. And reasons why is because of its aggressive behavior. And that's really what mosasaurs were. They were very aggressive. Very, very aggressive. And you do not want to actually be in open water with a mosasaur. You want to, if we travel back in time and we had a boat, probably like say maybe a boat probably like the size of an ocean liner, kind of almost like the Titanic or otherwise a cruise ship. You would actually want to stay close to the boat, because you see, mosasaurs would not go for anything way too big for their body size. They would actually be going after animals that are medium-sized to small to medium-sized, basically. And that's what they're looking for, is that they need prey that can actually go right down through their throat, right down their mouth, through their throat. And a typical mosasaur has conical teeth, no serrations. And it would actually have a very powerful bite force. And mosasaurs would have actually had a pretty powerful bite force if you actually think about is because of those massive jaws. Now those jaws do hinge, so they actually would be very useful of moving the prey down the throat. And so with that, and also another characteristic of mosasaurs is that they have teeth on the roof of their mouth, and that actually helps them to actually force the prey to actually go down the throat. And pretty much like if they swallow the Zephatinus, they would have swallowed that Zephatinus whole. And so those teeth in the roof of the mouth would actually be very useful to actually push that Zephatinus down its throat. And with stomach contents that are actually been found with Tylosaurus, they do have some marine reptiles that have been found in its stomach. Smaller marine reptiles, by the way, not large. And also they would have fish. Sometimes they would swallow Hesperornis, the toothy penguin-like bird of the Cretaceous, and also some turtles. They would actually eat some pretty much sea turtles, but there were giant sea turtles during its time, like Archelon, and so that would actually be a very good meal for it, but it would only actually eat a smaller one. It would not eat a large one. Large ones would actually, they can actually bite. Tylosaurus probably can bite a large Archelon, but it would only just take out like the flippers and maybe the tail, but that would have probably been it. They would have probably not have actually had too much of a chance to actually like go right over the shell as much. But even though it was a leathery shell, it wasn't really a bony type of shell, so it would actually be somewhat kind of easy, but also hard for that mosasaur to actually get. And of course the extinction of Tylosaurus is that it actually pretty much died out like most animals do, is that with a changing environment it probably did not survive very long. And so that would actually be that the sea levels were dropping pretty much in the Western Interior Seaway that actually split North America in two. And so that's when the Western Interior Sea started to actually subside, basically kind of shrink. And so that's when Tylosaurus's environment actually was decreased, and also it actually, with that size, it needs a large area in order to actually thrive. But so they would have probably been forced to live in the Gulf Coast and also parts of the Atlantic. But even though they would have probably just stuck with the Gulf Coast, just because it's what their environment, it's what they were familiar with. And now let's actually talk about the next dinosaur, and it's a tyrannosaur this time, and it is Alioramus. Alioramus in Greek or Latin means different branch. Fossils have been found in Asia, pretty much Mongolia and China. Late Cretaceous, 70 to 65 million years ago. 20 feet long, and probably would have weighed, I would say, 1,000 to a ton. And of course, it's a carnivorous dinosaur, being a tyrannosaur. And for numerous years, since the discovery of Alioramus, Alioramus was actually thought to be a juvenile Tarbosaurus. And the reasons why is because there was not that many juvenile Tarbosauruses that were found. Until the 90s, I believe, it was in the 2000s, is when we actually have discovered juvenile Tarbosaurus specimens, and they do not look like Alioramus. They almost look like the adults. So that actually kind of supports the notion that Alioramus is its own species. In Alioramus, for a tyrannosaur, it's actually a slender tyrannosaur and also small tyrannosaur. So it would actually be very fast. It would actually have really high speed, probably pretty close to 40 miles per hour. I would say probably its top speed would actually probably be between 30 to 35 miles per hour. And so it would probably be a little bit faster than Albertosaurus and Gorgosaurus. So I would actually say that it was probably slender enough to actually be faster than those two. And of course, during that time, it actually probably would have hunted the hadrosaurs mostly. It would actually hunt the hadrosaurs in Asia. And I don't really know that much about the hadrosaurs in Asia. I only know a little bit of them, so I don't really know too much about them. They were probably going after smaller ceratopsians as well. Protoceratops was not around during this time, so it would actually be. We would have probably actually gone after maybe the juveniles. We would have probably gone after the juvenile ceratopsians that were actually living in Asia. And so that would actually be a good indication of what its prey would actually be. And maybe the Therizinosaurs too. So it probably actually might have actually had to attack smaller Therizinosaurs. And the Oviraptorids were actually around during that time as well. So they probably actually attacked those probably once in a while, probably when they were juveniles. I'm talking about Alioramus juveniles, basically. And of course, it has the traits of a Tyrannosaur: small arms, large head, massive teeth, good eyesight, good hearing, good sense of smell, and of course, really good speed. And so that would actually, those are really good characteristics for a Tyrannosaur, and that's reasons why Tyrannosaurs are very common in the late Cretaceous. And so with Alioramus, it probably did actually hunt in packs, considering its smaller size. It probably lived in family groups, probably maybe groups of maybe 4 or 5, and probably would have actually taken on herding dinosaurs like the hadrosaurs. Those would have probably been its favorite food. It would have probably been its favorite prey, is hadrosaurs. And it probably did come across with Tarbosaurus from time to time, but it would actually probably stayed away from Tarbosaurus, because the only way that it could actually attack a Tarbosaurus is basically when Tarbosauruses are actually very small, pretty much hatchling to probably say getting close to a teenage years in terms of the age. Now, Alioramus, being slender, would actually have its limitations. It would not be very strong, so it would be strong in its own way, but it would actually not be as strong as Tarbosaurus or Tyrannosaurus rex. And also that means it would not have a very powerful bite force, so it would actually have a very small bite force. It's because it probably had very slender teeth. It's because it would actually be stripping flesh off of bones, not crushing them. And also, it would actually probably relied on speed a lot more than ambush. So they would have probably been pursuit animals. That's why, like you see, cheetahs, they actually go after a certain prey that can actually use their greatest asset. But also that greatest asset, being speed, could also be its weakness. It's because you actually are not as tough as the other carnivores that are actually around you that could actually tackle tougher herbivores. Like cheetahs can take down wildebeest, but they will not take down a Cape buffalo, in the African savannas, because Cape buffalo are way too tough for them to actually take down. They could actually take down a juvenile if they could, but still, it would have been too much for them to actually take down. That's why lions and hyenas take those kinds of prey down. It's because they're a little bit more tougher than the cheetahs. And so Alioramus, being that kind of same way, would actually not have that ability to actually be as strong as Tarbosaurus. So it would actually be very, very slender, very delicate, very, very delicate for a Tyrannosaur. What I mean by delicate means is that it's not as strong. What I mean by that, and that's so delicate in structure, and also probably considering another feature with Alioramus is the little bumps on its snout, probably to determine the males and females. Probably males had have probably more lumpy type of skulls, basically, for like showing the bumps on the snout. Probably very colorful too, and probably Alioramus was covered in feathers, so it probably would have. So the males would have probably been very colorful, and the females would have been dull in color, probably brown to kind of brownish type of color. So it would actually be pretty interesting of what the mating rituals would have been for Alioramus. But of course, the extinction, if the fossils have been found with the age of 70 to 65 million years ago, it would actually have suffered the same fate as the rest of the dinosaurs. It's pretty much is that it actually went extinct due to the asteroid strike that actually hit the Gulf of Mexico, created numerous events. Basically, not only a shock wave and also the flash of the impact, and also the debris that actually came from down the sky, but also tsunamis and also earthquakes, and even actually ruptured some of the volcanic activity that was going on in India. So that would actually have a big effect on how that environment totally changed, and that's why probably both volcanic activity and the asteroid comet strike in the Gulf of Mexico probably actually caused the extinction of the dinosaurs. Now, the asteroid strike would actually be the main cause of actually creating those earthquakes, and also those earthquakes actually helped crack some of those lava chambers that were underneath the volcanoes, and the magma chambers underneath the volcanoes, and pretty much those volcanoes just started to blow, and that's when they released all those toxic gases and also those ash beds and all those sorts of stuff that actually would come in a volcanic eruption. And pretty much all dinosaurs, all the giant dinosaurs pretty much were wiped out. The smaller dinosaurs that are living today, called birds, survived, and also the smaller mammals survived, and also amphibians, some smaller reptiles, and also some insects as well. Alright, that's it for now. Now, next week will actually be an answering questions episode. So if you got a question about dinosaurs or any other prehistoric life, feel free to email me at dinocris71@gmail.com. Otherwise, you can go on my Facebook page, Prehistoric Facts with Dino Chris. Like the page, you can actually post your questions in the comment section on any Facebook post. But remember, keep your questions short and to the point. And also, you can follow me on Twitter at CSGRALL. That's my Twitter page. I post pretty cool stuff on there. Also, take care of the people around you, and also for your younger people out there, make sure to listen to your parents, your teachers, and your guardians. Those are the best motivation you can have for a good education. It's very important to have a good education. So with a good education, you get a good job in the future. And by the way, maybe tomorrow I'll actually do a couple extra episodes. Somebody suggested me doing a Therizinosaur evolution episode, and also somebody actually has suggested I probably talk about cryptozoology. Now, I'm gonna be honest right here. Is that my particular science is pretty much geology and paleontology. Now, cryptozoology is sort of an interest of mine, but even though it's not high on my list in terms of interests. That's why paleontology and geology are right at the top. I would actually consider pretty much cryptozoology, like, because see, if like the least subject in science that I actually would talk about is like right here, cryptozoology would actually be right around here. So I mean, it's a debatable topic, and I mean, I'll do it, but even though it's just that I'm not a big fan of it. So I do have a sort of an interest in it, but it's more of about certain animals that could be invading certain countries. That's what I talk about. Not really the animals that are considered to like what people have seen and think they saw, and probably could be like a homogeneous figure and all that sorts of stuff. I would actually say I'm going to leave that out, and I'll just talk about the animals that I'm particularly interested in terms of cryptozoology. That's what I'll talk about, and also what cryptozoology really means. That's what I'll be talking about. All right, that's it for now, and I'll see you guys tomorrow and next week.